And welcome everybody to another episode of Mac Yak. We are on episode number 86 today for August 27th. So say hi everybody.
Hi,
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 everybody.
everybody.
hello.
Also, I am actually using I actually went ahead and bought a new mic. I actually joined the good mic club. Except Grudy's I think the last one to join that club because he's still using you know the old wired headphones. So first off
Wired
the bat, let's
headphones.
ask our audience: are you hearing an echo or anything? Is the audio good?
I
Everybody
sure
say
hope
something.
so. I'm using my webcam microphone, GT,
Can
Even
everyone
better.
hear
Well,
us?
you have a microphone on that cord. Why aren't you using that?
because it's
What do you-
plugged into my Mac Pro.
Ah,
Ah,
okay. All right, so the audio seems good. Michael Weir said the audio is good. So and Scarlett said no echoes. So good.
all
That's
right.
good. We finally got
Getting better.
something. Yeah, we finally got it straightened out. Okay. Anyways, yeah, I bought a blue snowball mic, so I am actually happy with this, and we'll figure out how it's going to go on here. So, I who kook. No wonder everybody see why that one got held. Okay, Macintosh librarian.
Before I pooped it. That's hilarious.
Yeah, no echo, but yeah. Yeah, it's funny, Macintosh librarian. YouTube actually held that for review, just to let you know. So,
So
I don't see any bad words in there.
yeah, you don't see one?
Anyway, moving right along.
Come on. All right. So, what's everybody been up to this week?
Building an ultrasonic cleaner.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I saw the
Yeah.
pictures of it. It looks nice, man. Jay's going to be jealous.
For what?
The
He doesn't
ultrasonic
need
cleaner
that.
he's got.
I'm jealous.
He's only probably jealous of the cost cutting side. He's still got a way flasher ultrasonic cleaner. Than
Yeah,
I
but
do,
yours
so.
is, how large is yours?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that it's 16 liters, which is it's about 4.3 gallons, something like that, which in itself is not that big. I think Steve, yours is a 15 liter, if I remember correctly. So it's 15, yeah. It's around that, but the main thing is that most of those off-the-shelf ultrasonic cleaners, as you buy bigger ones, they get a bit wider and a bit deeper and a bit higher and everything like that. They change in all three dimensions and get bigger, and that's not what I need. I need something that's large and flat, not very deep but very wide to stick these humongous boards in there. So that was ultimately why I ended up building it. It wasn't because I'm sort of cheap or something. I'm happy to buy something off the shelf if it existed. It certainly would have been a lot easier, but they just didn't make what I needed.
That's why I said Jay is jealous because he can't put large boards in his. I don't think. I think you said you
Yes,
could.
The
the
largest board I fix is a 17-inch MacBook Pro, and I can fit 4 of them in there.
No, I'm talking about okay for a CMP because you said you tried to put a CMP board in there and it wouldn't fit.
I can do it in 2 halves.
Yeah, two halves.
So,
Not justifying the cost.
Yeah, or Jay's just
I
wants to
didn't
be
pay
lazy.
for mine. I got it from work. It's a $0 investment. I'm good.
See, I told you wouldn't be jealous.
That's true. All right, guys. So, anybody else got anything going on that they want to talk about that they've been doing this week? I
Oh.
know Steve's been doing some
I got
uh,
something.
fixing.
well,
In fact-
I,
Oh,
Nice.
See you.
how'd you get that so quick?
what
Uh,
is it?
I don't know. Everybody's complaining about the mail slowing down, and I receive everything in 2 days flat.
Wow.
Except when I send you something and they just decide not to go to your house.
Was it fun
Yeah.
putting it together though?
Oh, you wait 2 months with packing it up. That doesn't help. No.
No, 3 days, not 2 months.
But,
But
Yeah,
anyway,
you assembled it, didn't you, Jay? You bought that as a kit and put it together.
Yeah. yeah.
what is it?
Oh,
So
come on.
component
test.
See, Grudy, if you'd be on the show sometimes, you might know.
Yeah.
It's a really nifty little thing because it's sort of it's not just a matter of like a sort of a multimeter. I mean, you can put virtually any component in. You can put a transistor in there. It'll tell you what sort of transistor it is. It'll tell you what the voltage drop is between each of the pins. It'll tell you which one's the base collector emitter. It does resistors, it does diodes, it does capacitors. It's a really, really handy little
It's
piece of kit
very
to have.
versatile, yeah.
Yeah, if you're
Yeah.
doing any sort of repair work.
And Bruce the other day showed me something I didn't know about it, about putting the surface mount components on that little strip right there to test it. I was like, I did not know that.
Me neither. I discovered that quite by accident. I discovered it when I was in the process. I was actually going to build something for surface mount. I was going to, build something on there. And then as I was looking around, at where I was going to attach my little probes, I looked at it and said, that's what they're for. So, yeah.
Anyway. And you can put a transistor even on there. I saw.
I was in quite a hurry to put it together. It was almost dinner time. I was hungry. It was hot in here. Let me do this quick. The inside, this is acrylic. See through the whole thing. There's fingerprints on the inside, and it's pissing me off. Take it apart again.
Just take a video and clean it. It'll only take you 45, 50 minutes.
That's right. Yeah. The puck cleaning.
Yeah, I could probably do this in half an hour.
Just chuck the whole thing in the ultrasonic.
I did think about it.
Then it'll have melted plastic in there.
GT is mentioning, I've been cleaning and recapping things, so that's my life the past I don't know how many days.
And speaking of which, what's the latest one you recapped? Because she is actually watching right now.
Yes, yeah. So the Macintosh Librarian, I recapped her Macintosh SE30. Of course, I'm having worse luck with my own SE30. But, I think that is also the curse of Sean, because Action Retro sent me his cursed Macintosh SE30 to recap, and just its presence in the house has cursed everything. Because right on the box, he wrote, "This is a cursed Macintosh." So I'm solely blaming that on him, and we'll see if that helps once that's out of the house.
Well, I did see a very positive post from Macintosh Librarian on Instagram, that she received the board, was impressed with the work, and I don't know if it actually worked, but the picture looked good.
Ooh, she has 64 megabytes of memory in hers now.
Says that works well.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Good.
Oh, there we go. It's working.
She
super
goes, hers is
well.
not
just well.
cursed.
It's working super well.
Oh, well, thank you.
And it's not cursed. So apparently the curse did not follow that board to her
Well, the
house.
board left the house before the
It
curse.
got out of there before. Yeah.
Good time.
So what, you're saying everything in there is cursed now?
Sure. Let's just go with that. Easier to explain things.
Okay.
Yeah. There's still some of the Macintosh Librarian still has a computer there, does she not?
No.
No, I guess the Action Retro.
Yeah.
Action Retro said Mackie is
I thought Mac's brother was there.
Yeah, and he's feeling a little under the weather. He's that classic 2 is kicking my butt. That's on the back burner.
All right. So, anybody else got anything that they've been doing? Go ahead, Grudy.
Well, I've been up to a lot of things that have nothing to do with channel or YouTube, because life got in the way. That's where I've been the last few weeks. Is my mother's house flooded, and I've been dealing with that. And there's just been some financial issues. I'm finally out of the financial problem. In fact, I just came back from a 7-hour round trip today, driving around making money, and
all right, now hey, this is a family show. This is a family show. Come on.
Map route, so I can
Yeah. It's just been
No wonder you're tired.
oh yeah. Well, yeah,
All right, let's keep this at PG right here.
I don't know what you're talking
You
about.
went there first.
I managed to make a bunch of stuff that I should be coming back soon. I'm tired. I've been
You're
driving all
digging
day.
yourself deeper, dude.
Yeah.
First it's you, then it's the stuff.
Yeah,
the
at least
euphemism
announce
with
that it's
every
all in
word.
our streets.
Are you moonshining, man? It is West Virginia, so that's a good possibility.
I'd have a lot more money, and I'd be drunk all the time.
Drink all the time. I think he's already
6
there.
million truck parts, and you'll be out of money again.
Oh
Give
yeah.
it time.
Yeah. Now, someone in the chat just mentioned your shirt, Steve.
Yes, it's
You know,
very
tell us
fancy.
about that. I
So,
love it.
yeah, I did all the very heavy typing myself, but no, it's a shirt I designed. It's on my Patreon, whatever the heck. So you do need to support me for as little as $1 to get the link to it. But the link on there is the heavily discounted version of this shirt. Eventually, when they're public,
Yeah, his Patreon's below in the link in the
yes,
description.
in the video description. But eventually, when it's like a public thing, I can't really control the price, so it's like it'll be $7 more or whatever. But yep, but I think it's great.
didn't know
They're
that.
Very cozy.
And we all have
And
one.
everybody that gets the shirt needs to submit a picture of them wearing it and put it on
Discord.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
do you have, for my sake, do you have fat people sizes?
They go up to 5XL, but I believe 5XL is currently out of stock. I did
Bruce is
email
like,
them.
that may be just big enough.
Well, no, that's
No,
more
just
like
kidding.
intent. But
Well, it's no. I mean, I always like getting shirts big because then they're like you can sleep it up. You don't have to worry about like getting
Yep.
I don't know if
We
they're
lose-
pre-shrunk or not. So
Do we lose Jay or?
Jay's off buying a shirt. That's what he's.
Ah. All right, guys.
I just
Anybody
ordered
else?
my 7XL.
That's after you.
I'm still looking for the link.
It's on your Patreon. My Patreon.
Where?
It's a post.
Where?
Well, while Grudy figures out how to.
Oh,
do
I
it,
see
like,
it. I see it.
So now,
He's tired. Come on, folks.
hey, it's that West Virginia education, you know. All right, guys. So we're basically going to be winging it, kind of semi-winging it tonight. We have one topic tonight, a couple of news and announcements, but other than that, the rest of the show is pretty much going to be pretty much free for all. So, which has been so good so far because we actually have burnt up almost 15 minutes of doing this. So, congrats.
We're pros at it.
That's right. All right, so right now we are up to 794 subscribers to MACYAK, almost to 800. So we're 6 away from being at 800, which means we're 206 away from the MACYAK MacBook giveaway. Guys, remember, we still have that giveaway going. When we reach 1,000 subscribers, that's when we will do the giveaway. It includes a MacBook, 2008 MacBook White polycarbonate. I'm giving away. Grudy is giving away a iPod Nano
And a
Mini. Okay, I keep messing it up. So, anyways, iPod Mini, and Rocky is giving away Rocky is giving away a $50 Steam card. So, unless any of these other guys want to throw stuff in, that's what we're giving away for it right now. So, but
Nope.
maybe Steve will give away that cursed Macintosh. You know.
It's not mine to give away.
Oh, dang.
Ah.
All right, so can't do that. All right, but anyways, make sure you guys get on there. Make sure you tell your friends. We're going to say this again at the end of the show, but hey, go out there and spread the word. Hey, share this link on your Facebook pages. That's the best way to get it out there too.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so we don't have a slide for this, but the first topic of the evening is installing older unsupported operating systems onto your Mac. So I know all of us have done this, but in our chat here, has anybody ever installed a Mac operating system onto your Mac that is much older than the Mac itself and not actually support it? In other words, kind of reverse, I think is what that is.
Yeah.
So in other words, like taking a 2017 MacBook Pro and putting Tiger on it. Have you done something like that?
Well, yeah, it's not really possible, but
Well,
I've done that.
Yeah, it is.
Like one version previous, like on an eMac or a Quicksilver. Like it wasn't really supported. It didn't ship with that, but you could sort of finagle your way down there. It's tricky with the drivers.
well, I got this idea for this topic from a poster on Low End Mac today. He posted that he was running 7.5.5
I saw
with
that.
a G4.
Yeah, I don't know
How
if
is
I
that
believe
even
it.
possible?
He was running it on a 9600, which supports 7.5.5.
Yeah,
Well-
so he had an upgrade card in there. That's null and void.
yeah, that
Yeah,
doesn't count.
But
That doesn't
it
count.
It should be causing panics because G4s, like with my upgraded system, I was running 8.5 on my 9600. It would not boot into 8.5 with the G4.
Well, some of those things, it's just not smart enough to see that there's a processor card there. So sometimes, like, these older Macs will identify, oh, I got a processor, I'm okay. And if you actually go to System Profiler, it's going to report some crazy processor speed that makes no sense, like 82 megahertz or something. The computer is probably going to run okay, but it's probably like very confused and has an identity crisis.
But with this idea, yeah, go on, Steve.
No, I was just going to say, so if you have a newer system that knows what a G4 is, it's probably doing more harm than good.
Right. But with this idea, I came up with a few of them that I have come through with unsupported hardware still working. Like when I did my G4 upgraded blue and white, I was running a 9200 in it, and 9200 only supports 9.2.1 or later, I think. I was running 8.6 on it with the 9.2.2 drivers. Also, there's many G4s out there that can run OS 9, even though they never supported them. Like Jay's done the Mac Mini, and I've done the Mac Mini.
I've got a question about that, if I can just, interject. I know that with the Mac OS 9 Lives installation, which obviously is how you're running that on those computers, certainly in Jay's video, he had no audio on that. Has that been resolved?
Not as far as I know, because I still can't to this day get it.
I believe you can do USB audio.
I've tried USB audio and it doesn't work on my end. I don't know if it would work with another adapter.
There's this weird adapter I have it's supposed to be like a speakerphone thing, but essentially it's a USB cord to a little speaker, and on there is an audio jack and something like that. I'd have to try it because that seems pretty generic and has worked on a lot of OS 10 machines, early OS 10 machines. Cool. I'd be curious if that's even recognized on OS 9. I doubt it, but I have one over here, so I might as well try.
I love the idea of putting OS 9 on those little minis, and once I saw the video, I was like, oh yeah, I'm going to go out and do this straight away. And then of course I saw that they didn't have audio, and the one thing I want to be able to have with that is audio.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons why I don't use mine, because the lack of audio. But there's also other systems I've had. I've got two PowerBook G4s, an iBook G4, all running OS 9, and I've just suddenly gone blank.
Are they particularly stable, or do you have issues?
Everything that should works. Some of them need different patches. Yeah, some of them need different patches to make things work, like modified Radeon 9200 graphics for like the PCI cards, for the upgrade cards. They've been modified for actual Apple integrated graphics and stuff. There's also eMacs out there that can run OS 9 that were never intended to run OS 9. And there's a lot of things you can do, a lot of Macs, mostly PowerPC based, that will run much older operating systems than what they were meant for. And and there's one other thing I've done. The Mac Mini late 2011 Mac Mini only came with Lion, and you can run Snow Leopard on them. There's sometimes some graphical glitches, but they use the same hardware as the early 2011 MacBook Pro. So all the drivers are there. It's just getting it to install and work.
Well, so I guess the big question for anyone who might be watching this is, why would you want to take a Mac that runs OS 10 and wasn't originally designed to run OS 9? Why would you want to run OS 9 on it anyway?
Because you can.
OS 9 is awesome.
Because you can.
Well, because having natively running software versus Classic, for instance, is a lot better, because you'll have less problems with crashes and stuff with applications. Some applications won't even run in Classic, but they'll run fine in OS 9.
Yeah, especially the ones that need the Velocity Engine support on the G4.
Yeah.
So my question...
Yeah,
oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry, go on. No.
I was going to say, my question is, how do you put these older systems on? I mean, what do you have to do specifically to shove an older operating system on the newer machine.
I mean, the times I've done it, it's you kind of install it on a supported system, and then you start replacing drivers from other operating system versions. You build an image, and you restore that, or you just use that hard drive to boot up from.
Yep.
It can be infuriating, but once you get it, it's pretty fun.
It's very fun after you get it, for sure.
Yeah,
And that's basically
It's
what
been
you
a
do.
while for me though.
well, see, I've never done it that way. Although I actually take that back. I did do it once, and I did my iMac G3 has OS 9 lives on it, which it wasn't. I don't think it was supposed to run it on there or whatnot, but it works on there.
Well, I think you're going up. You're upgrading higher, not lower.
What do you mean higher?
Which iMac are you talking
The
about?
G3, iMac G3. The
What,
second.
do you know it's a 2000
It's
or
the
2001?
second version. It's the slot load. Graphite.
Yeah, so those came with 9.
Oh, did they? Okay, never mind then.
Yeah, it was the only ones I believe that shipped with 10 were like some of the last ones that after they phased out 9 and after they started selling the eMac and stuff, it was like the lowest end. I think they came with a Jaguar on it or something.
I mean, because I got 9.22, or the OS 9 lives on that one, and that's the only Mac I think I have OS 9 lives on. Now, my iMac G4, I have classic mode on it because I have Tiger on it, and my G5, I have Leopard, but I have no classic mode on it. So.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm trying to think, because I always did exactly what you're talking about. GT is getting a newer system on the older system for compatibility reasons or whatever, but I haven't had the need, at least, to do like an OS 9 thing on an eMac or a Mac Mini. It sounds like fun. I'll play around with it, but I just haven't had the requirement to do that, since I have another machine I could just use for that task.
Yeah.
So, what is the absolute latest, newest Mac that someone has been able to run OS 9 on, booting into OS 9?
I would say that would be,
MDD?
well,
Didn't the Mini come out
MDDs
after
are
the MDD?
semi-official.
Well, I know my Gigabyte G4 will do 9.
We're looking at probably early 2000, maybe some early 2005 G4s, but somewhere around the 2004 G4s is about where the support's totally chopped off.
Yeah,
You can't
I
really
would say
get to
the
work.
first Mini was January 05, so I would
Yeah.
probably
So
that
probably
or
the
an
Mini.
eMac or an iMac, something like that.
Probably
I've never
the
heard of a
Mini.
G5 running it, so or anything
No,
beyond
yeah.
that.
I wish.
I would love that. I would love to get 9
That'd
running
be
on the
so
G5.
I
fast.
would too.
Quad-core OS 9? Damn.
Velocity engine,
Yeah.
eat this.
Can we get Colin Mister on the job or something like that
Yeah.
to sort that
Yeah,
out for us?
Grudy,
That's
get,
what you
get
can
on
do
it.
now.
We've been
Wow.
trying to get the Mac OS 9 guys or girls or
Whoever.
whoever they are on the show for almost a year.
Yeah.
And, time zone differences, they're too shy, they don't know what to say, so we kind of gave up on that. But we appreciate their work.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wonder if, I forget what the latest, I think it was only 8, or no, maybe it was probably System 7, but remember the Daystar clone with the 4 processor support. You talked about quad core OS 9. I'm thinking, wait a second. Some preliminary support.
Dude,
Can you imagine running that on a G5 processor though? I mean that oh man.
Yeah.
You click
You're-
you click
you're-
something
you're-
and it's coming up before you click.
Before you
And
think
OS 9 will crash faster too.
There you go.
I'm still waiting for the OS 9 Lives guys to finally release 9.3.
yeah,
Well,
that's
I
been
mean,
in
that-
the works for a while.
Yeah, but not to segue, but what could someone theoretically add to 9.3 that would be worthy of a blank release?
A good browser.
Probably official support for unofficially supported Macs. And maybe
to me that's
G5 support.
I mean, they've
To me,
already
that's a-
achieved a little bit through some hacks. They've achieved OS 9 supporting more RAM. It shows up a little weird, but they've done it. It would be nice if they could sort that out
That'd be cool.
properly.
Then again, why would you ever need more than 1.5 gigs?
Saying that sounds like you
find
sound like what's his name from Microsoft saying,
Bill
"Why would
Gates.
anybody need 640K?"
Yeah, but it's a little different because OS 9 doesn't need
It
any.
might seem like it.
Yeah, yeah. If you look at the most memory hungry OS 9 application out there, you're probably not going to need more than 1.5 to support.
Yeah, I can imagine somebody doing like some audio work and with a bunch of plugins and recording or video work for that matter. But
Yeah, a good Cubase session will eat that up pretty quickly. But I like like I said, downgrading has been a while. I don't even remember the last time I did it. But I do like having newer operating systems, specifically with my Xserves. After Leopard or after Lion or Mountain Lion or Mavericks, I don't remember. The front LEDs of the Xserve stopped working. Pissed me off. So annoying. It's so cool to have those LEDs, but you can take
actually
the drivers from an older operating system, put them in there, make it work. So I like that kind of customizing the OS with older drivers and stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, editing YouTube videos on OS 9 Golden Panda is very possible. You just can't be like these kids who try and do it for the YouTube stardom and go, LOL, it's so slow. You got to use DV footage, uncompressed, 480i, you're golden.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Anything else on this? Because I mean, I'm just basically we're winging it tonight, and you guys are making this one not last long. In fact,
Yeah, hey, we made it officially 30 minutes. It's a good show, guy. We can wrap it up.
Good night.
no, we got a little bit more actually in here.
Yeah, I mean, we've got one topic here that could last us a long time.
What is that? The Outback.
No, the well, you may not be looking at the same document.
I must not be looking at
There
it.
is topic 2 about archiving.
Ah, okay, there it is. All right.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that
All
one. And that was just newly added in the last hour.
All right, so yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that then. Archiving disks, documents, and photos and non-digital stuff. Now, I agree with Bruce on this. Yeah, we could talk about this for hours because here's the thing that archiving documents. Now, I have a filing system where I got paper stuff, because, like, for instance, when I was in the military for 20 years, I accumulated, like, a whole lot of paper because, back in the day, the Army, that's all they was driven on was paper. They didn't know how to put things digitally. So my medical records itself are probably about maybe that thick, maybe a little thicker. But I do need to actually digitally archive those. So I have a copy anytime I need it in case, like, God forbid, I have a fire or something, and they all burn up because seeing that they're that thick, they don't fit in my fireproof safe that well. So, so I don't really keep them in a fireproof safe right now. But I do need to do that and put them on several backup sites like Jay suggested in one of our episodes previously. You don't want to store your backups in one place only. You got to put them on, a couple of offsite areas, stuff like that. So, but that's my take on it. Now, Bruce, you had a good take.
Did I?
Well, you wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, no, I mean, one thing that I just sort of wanted to mention, of course, is that, so how important it is to do something like this, because so many things can degrade over time, whether it be, paper oxidizing or whether it be, I mean, I can give you a classic example here. My parents, when they got married, they got someone to take photos with slide film, so not actually like negatives. They actually use slide film, and of course the wonderful thing about slides is that depending on the slides the material you used, those slides can retain this incredible color and resolution. And I mean, I've scanned some slides in from like the 60s, and they look like they were taken yesterday. They're absolutely wonderful. And these slides were put in a box, and they were stored away in a cupboard. And then I have quite a good slide scanner here, and I thought I'll start scanning them. And some of these slides had fungus on them. So little things, living on the surface, and they eat the emulsion away. So obviously the slide has two sides. You've got the emulsion and the non-emulsion side, and the emulsion is the stuff that's actually producing the color on there. And there's this fungus that eats at the emulsion, and that's basically just happened over time. The longer you leave it, the more they're going to eat. There are probably ways of maybe sort of arresting the process. And I certainly know that some slides get the fungus worse than others. So maybe some of them had something in it to stop that fungus from happening. But it's so important with those sorts of things, those sort of treasured memories, to get them digitized, because those other forms of media, can deteriorate over time. So anyhow, that was something I wanted to mention about it. You got to look at it from a preservation point of view.
All right, we have to ask, why is Dana laughing back there?
Yeah, why is Dana giggling?
I don't know.
He's muted and giggling.
Rudy's just putting on a mime show. It's just hilarious.
It could be something that Jay just put on Discord, but.
All right, now I got.
Yeah, see now we're all starting up Discord just to see what Jay did.
I mean,
it's been a while since I've made a meme. It was time. Okay.
All right, as long as it's not at my expense, I'm fine with it.
It probably is at your expense. You never know.
Probably is. Yeah.
Well, I mean, exactly what Bruce was saying. My parents experienced, because my parents were going through a bunch of old slides. And exactly the same problem. They had mold on a lot of them, and thankfully a lot of them were just scenery, no family photos or anything like that, and they just tossed them because there was nothing really to do. But it is very important to back up that stuff that you only have the one copy of. A classic example is like Polaroid photos. There's no negative to go back to if that printed out photo is developed. I mean, I'm talking strictly about pictures right now, but it obviously pertains to anything that is a physical copy, whether it's a certificate of some kind, a marriage license, something like that, photos, a printed out document, a manual of something. And depending on your setup and your scanner, this stuff, theoretically, it might not take a lot of time if you have a small stack of it, or it could take ages because you want to scan it at the highest resolution, you want to do double side, you want to touch it up and all this stuff. But my stance has always been, look, even if you don't have a scanner, but you have a phone, take a picture of a photo or something. It's stupid. It'll curve it. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be flat. But you have something. It's better than nothing. Exactly. And so what I do is I'll go visit my grandmother's place or whatever, and they have all these scans, all these negatives rather, and photos and stuff. And so I'll take pictures of like the bins I'm going to attack first, and then I'll take pictures of the stuff like while I'm scanning it if I find a particularly precious photo or something, just to make sure that I have a copy of that. But because once the stuff is gone, you only own the original version of it. So whether it's photographs or videotapes or 8mm film or anything like that, there's a bunch of different challenges for each medium. So the big thing I would suggest is before you do anything, Google it. See what others have done to archive those similar things, and there are challenges with each of them. I mean, photos take up a considerable amount of space, so does video. There are different ways to preserve that stuff.
And I would say don't cheap out. If you have slides or documents or photos or whatever it is, and you want to digitize it, don't go with a $20 scanner from Amazon. Rent a good one if you don't have it. A good slide scanner, a good, because next time you do it, when you do have a good scanner, the pictures or documents might be gone. So don't cheap out. Do it right the first time.
And take the time. I mean, that's another thing. If you are scanning in photographs necessarily, documents you could probably get away with 300 DPI or so. But if you're doing photos, especially if they're small, even if your scanner is going to chug along and take a while, it's better to scan it at a higher resolution to understanding the source that you're scanning from and all that stuff. There are limits, but take the extra time, take the extra disk space. Hard drives are cheap these days, and don't forget to back that stuff up after you do it, because again, these things are not replaceable.
Yeah, and I've as I think it was last week or the week before. This is a 700 megabyte CD. All right. I put photos on here in 2003. This disc has been fine ever since, until last week when it started being unable to read certain data.
Yeah.
So I copied everything off of it, but some of the images are corrupted. Now, I got into the habit of archiving my images, as in make it a zip file or a SIT, because image files very easily corrupt. You get those blocks and bands and garble, but for some reason, if it's inside an archive file, it corrupts way less frequently or way less easy. I don't know the logic behind it.
There's probably some error correction in the compression algorithms.
Yeah, so I always do that as a second step. I have all the original files and then a zip file or SIT file with all the same files along with it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I mean, especially if you're burning a disk, make another copy of it. So if one goes bad, you know, and we've talked about backup stuff in the previous show when having different locations, you know, the whole thing is basically the same thing applies, but you know, you are dealing with something physical like a document or a photo or a manual or something that there's a tangibleness to. So, you know, even if you don't have one of those fancy scanners that, you know, is in the shape of a book and you could put it like that and you could scan magazines in a really high resolution or whatever, you know, if there's something cool that you have that's unique, either try and scan it yourself, or there are people of services like the archive.org has some folks on Twitter that advertise themselves sometimes, that, you know, you could send them stuff and they'll get around to it. They'll scan it. I had a friend who gave me some videotapes that he wanted someone to duplicate for him, and just old family tapes and stuff like that. And if you have the equipment to do it, it takes some knowledge. But once you're all set up, I think it's just time intensive to actually do the process.
Yeah, there's definitely benefits to hiring someone. Yeah, it can get pricey, but if your pictures are damaged, you want someone to not only scan them in but fix them as well. You know, you can learn Photoshop yourself. You can give it a shot and kind of get it to where you want it to be, or you can just hire someone to do it right the first time.
Yeah.
I just wanted to very quickly mention this is the scanner that I use, the slide scanner, and it's a Plus Tech Optic Film 7400. It scans at 7,400 dpi, so for negatives and for slides, and then it comes with this software called Silverfast, where if you put a negative in there, you actually select what type of negative it is, if it's Kodak or if it's Fuji or whatever, and it has built-in color adjustment tables so that when it converts that negative into a positive, it helps maintain the right color. It removes any color casts that might be in it, and as I say, when you're scanning at 7,400 dpi, you can end up with these things being big enough to output to a poster. It wasn't the cheapest out there, but it was by no means the most expensive negative or slide scanner, and it's just been absolutely invaluable. I'm really happy with the results I get when I'm scanning either slides or negatives with this one. So
how big are the TIFF files that are exported from those traditionally?
That's a good question.
Because I do mine at 2400 because that's the highest my little flatbed with the scanner attachment does. I've been pretty happy with that, but there are some situations where I'd want a little bit higher resolution, but I know the files I have now are quite large.
That's the thing.
Yeah,
back in 2000, I was happy with 640/480. Wow, it takes up half my screen. Now, like, what is that?
Yeah.
If you scan it at full res, you end up with about a 200 megabyte TIFF file. But of course, what I generally do is I have them as a TIFF. I do any cleaning that needs to be done, remove any specks, any scratches, tidy them up. Because in a past life, I used to actually work doing retouching. So, I tidy them all up, get them all looking nice, and then I save them as quite a high. I often denoise them because there's usually a fair bit of noise in the film, and then I'll usually save them as a JPEG once I've done all that work. Now, I realise that JPEG is.
Yeah, I'm sorry. How long does it take to scan a frame? Traditionally?
It takes probably, if you're doing it at the full res, it probably takes about I don't know, 4 minutes, something like that, 4 or 5 minutes, something like that. Yeah, it's all right. I mean, look, if you're just doing it for muck around stuff, you can obviously do it at much lower res. But for me, if I'm doing stuff, as for archive purposes, even if I resize it after I've cleaned it up, so I might bring it in high res, get rid of the noise, get rid of the specs, retouch it, make it look nice, get it all color corrected, then I might shrink it down a little bit. Again, you just got to work out what you're going to do with this. I mean, if you're not planning to print it out to a poster, you don't need all those extra pixels. They're just a waste. But that's generally the way I work. I scan it really high res, do all the work, and then drop it down a little bit for storage.
Yeah, I'd probably bug you for an example of 2400 versus 7200.
Happy to. Yeah.
Great. Another thing I need to buy.
Look, this is a relatively old one. They do have a newer one now. The newer one has probably dropped in price, but again, it's another really important thing is the level of density that they will scan it, and that's usually measured it's like a number followed by a D. So it might be like 3.5D or 3.9D or 4.5D or something like that. And what that is essentially telling you is how well it picks up really dark stuff. And that's really important, in particular if you've got some photos that are shot in low light. You might get the slide or negative in there, you'll go to scan it in, and you'll just get nothing in the shadow detail. Whereas and that's often one of the things you're paying for. The more expensive the scanner, they often have a much better density range that they can scan in.
That's good to know. Yeah. Just on the topic of non-digital, technically it's analog medium videotapes. I just saw someone mention in the chat that they've been talking about videotapes and stuff like that. And I just want to say that although there are some pretty cheapo adapters out there that will take composite video and put it to HDMI, I've found that a lot of those, especially the low cost ones, there's a lot of ways to convert an analog signal to digital, and I find that a lot of those adapters will do an okay job, and a copy of something is better than nothing. I traditionally use a bit of a different setup. I have a JVC Super VHS deck that's kind of like a prosumer deck. It works pretty well. Has S-video out. Now, a lot of people will say, well, it's just composite signal, but it looks a bit cleaner. When I've done comparison, it does look a little bit cleaner, especially if you're dealing with older tapes. Sometimes it just brings a little bit of the balance of the chrominance and luminance there. And then I use one of these old Firewire capture devices that just goes from, it's just meant for standard definition, so it just goes from analog to digital there. And I've had pretty good success with it. Obviously, you're dealing with mostly DV files. It's about 13 gigabytes an hour if it's not compressed, and you can always compress it later. But I've seen a lot of videos of people. Technology Connections did one about how he does this, and he used an HDMI adapter, which actually looks nice, because the problem I run into is, depending on the deck you use, you'll get some weird contrasting, and that's just the way these adapters sometimes work. Each of them is a little bit different. And Panasonic even made a VHS Blu-ray combo deck that was years ago. It didn't record, it was just a playback unit, but had an HDMI port on it. I actually have a Sony deck that has an HDMI port on it, but the VHS looks about the same. Again, there's a lot of ways to convert analog to digital, but
there was one little tip that you gave me once, Steve, which is a really good one, and that is I've got an old Panasonic video camera. It's an old, one that shoots onto the little digital tapes. Only standard diff, but it has a Firewire port, and it also has composite video in on the camera. And I can actually use that. I can connect the camera to a computer with Firewire, and then connect, a sort of a VHS or whatever to that camera, and use that camera as a bridge to bring in that video into capture it into something like Final Cut or something like that.
Yeah,
and I hadn't even thought about that, but yeah, that was a good tip.
Yeah, my father's first digital camera had that, but the caveat was you had to record it to a tape, and then you had to import it into the computer. So a lot of them just do the live thing, so it will act as that capture box. Some of those are better than others. But obviously, with the way things are, at least you get something. And
Yep.
some of those HDMI converters are probably fine. I just haven't used all of them, so I can't be the judge of it.
One of the frustrating things I found was that I got one of those little video capture thingies, and it would only work in their software.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of
That's
them do
not
that.
fun.
A ton of them do that. That's why the FireWire ones are usually, well, they don't really do FireWire anymore, but they were usually, just generic. They were fine. The only thing that I would also say is if you're dealing with any tapes that are probably late 80s, early 90s, depending on the way the audio was recorded, if your VCR does not support selecting if it's a hi-fi audio tape manually or whatever, you might run into audio issues. I found a tape from 83 that was recorded from a camcorder that somebody rented from somewhere, because who would buy a camcorder at the prices they were? And there was no audio, and I'm thinking, wow, did this degrade already? And no, I just had to go into the menu and fish around for a setting that actually was picking up that channel. So if you're stumped, just Google search like you might find the answer.
Yep.
Never would have thought of that.
Yep. All right, guys.
Yeah,
So
it's very strange.
let's go ahead and get into our next subject here. Game round. Everybody loves this. So some of the new people on here, you may not know what we're talking about on here. We actually try to have this every week now. This is like kind of a weekly thing. I think we've been doing it for almost 3 months now. Basically, it's if you have or haven't. So the way we play this is you type in EEP, EEP, if you have done this, or quack.
Eep.
Yeah, or quack if you haven't.
Quack.
And I just lost my... What the heck happened here? I just lost the... The show note. No, I just lost the show notes.
Oh no!
Okay.
I'll copy and paste.
All right, so yeah, it's weird. Did somebody delete them out of the group chat?
No.
Oh, there they
I
are.
sent it to you.
No, they're there. It's just all of a sudden it just disappeared. I was like, what the heck is going on here? All right.
I sent them, but
All
they're
right,
not.
I got them back up again. All right, so first one. Have you ever done the floppy swappy dance? Okay, and that means when installing an operating system or game that requires multiple disks, but you only have one disk drive. Eep.
I'm patenting that.
Yeah.
Eep.
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 Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Quack.
I mean,
Who said
was
quack?
Just
Jay.
yeah.
He's never touched a floppy in his
That's
life.
true, yeah.
He's never used a computer that didn't have a CD-ROM.
I've done it
drive.
with CDs, not with floppies.
All right,
The-
CDs count.
I think
It was just a way of life once upon a
Oh,
time.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
if you were dealing, I mean, even if you were dealing with, like, say, an old Mac Plus, and I remember doing this at the time with a Mac Plus that didn't have a hard drive, and you wanted to run an application or something like that, and it was too big to have the system and the application on the same disk. So you would have your system on one disk and your application on the other. And so you'd have your system in there, and then you would eject the system. It would still leave a little grayed out icon on there, and then you'd pop in your application, you'd go to launch it, and it would start up, and then it would say insert the system disk, so it'd spit that out, then you put the system disk in, and then you'd say insert the application disk, it'd spit that out, and you would literally just sit there going bump, bump,
Yep.
bump, one to
It's
the
just
other, one to the
loading
other, one to the
whatever
other.
into memory that it
Yeah,
had to do.
that's right.
Drive you
Yeah,
crazy.
so it would load the application into memory, but every now and again it might need to revert back to the system, so it would keep you just. And I had times sometimes where you were maybe swapping 20 times, something like that, to then just get a single application to launch.
Yeah.
And it was worse on the 128K and the 512 because they had 400K disk drives, so there was less
Yes.
data to fit on them.
mhm.
And Apple didn't offer an external disk drive until like 6 to 7 months after those computers came out. So
Right.
it was the swapping life for a lot of people.
Well,
And it was like $500 for the disk
I
drive.
think my
when it came out.
first experience ever doing the floppy swappy dance is F-16 Fighting Falcon. It was like about 20-something discs. And
Oh yeah.
and
I have that sitting downstairs
Now,
in my library.
here's a eep and a quack on this particular. I'm going to add it into this one. After doing, like, you're installing like a 30 disc program, and disc number 15 is bad.
Oh,
Have you ever done that?
I can eat that
Eep.
one.
I did that when I was a kid. I found that Apple still had System 7 available to download on their website. It's like 25 images. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
So over dial-up, I downloaded all of them. I made floppies. Now I only had like 5 or 6 floppies. So what I did was I wrote the disk as I was installing, and and I got to a point, I forget what disk number it was, but all of my disks just went bad, and it turned out the floppy drive had gone as I was working. So I'm like 75, 80% of the way installing system 7.5.3 or whatever, and it's like, oh, can't read any of these disks. So I'm like, it's so close. If I only chose like the minimum install, maybe I would have gotten away with it. But I had to be greedy and use the easy install.
Was System 7.5 the last one that came out on floppies, I think?
I think you could request 7.6 in floppies.
Okay.
But I could be mistaken. But 7.5 was the one I remember on floppies.
Yeah. That's why I had to add that one in there, because I've actually had that happen where right in the middle of 30-something disks, and you're like, okay, it's going. 30 minutes in, you're like, you put in 15, disk 15, and it's like, you're like, no!
No, not that sound.
Yeah, you heard that sound, right?
Oh, yeah.
You hear that little, the head's just seeking back and forth. It's like, can't find anything. You're like, no!
I love when it's doing that, and then it works, and I'm like, oh my god!
And it's like funny for like Windows programs. When that would happen, a lot of Windows programs, if it wouldn't read it after the first few tries, it would just cancel the installation, delete everything it just installed.
And you're like, no!
Here's another one. What Steve just mentioned, where you hear it making that noise, the seek noise, and then finally it works, and you go, I'm going to have to back up that disk, and then you don't.
Yeah. Been there.
All right.
Yeah.
So next one. Did you ever carry a floppy disk around with vital utilities or programs at work or school before USB flash drives were popular? Eep.
And I'm going to say eep because for me it applies to zip disks.
Yep, that's acceptable.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
When
Optical media.
when I used to work doing sort of tech support in the 90s, I think it would have been about 93, something like that, there was still lots and lots of like compact Macs, old Macs being used around about that time. And I used to carry around actually a SCSI hard drive. And it was 500 meg or a gig, I think, but it was a lot bigger than most people had at the time. Most people were still running with 40 megabyte, 80 megabyte, that sort of thing. And it used to have on it virtually every system installer, every utility on it, all the control panels, and it would have enough space left to then back up a drive. So if I was going somewhere and people were having problems with their computer, first thing we would do is we'd plug in the external hard drive, back up their entire hard drive, format it, copy everything back again. Doing it that way. But it was, that drive had absolutely everything on it. So I could boot on, boot it up.
Yeah, one of my favorite disk utilities right there was Norton Utilities. That was a must-have. You had to carry on a floppy. You had to have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tech Tool Pro, Norton Utilities.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
I just quickly, I remember in high school we had Windows XP towers, and flash drives were out, but they disabled a lot of the USB ports on these systems, or you wouldn't be allowed to install drivers. So whatever the OS was, it still was not plug and play with all these adapters. I think it was XP, but it could have been 98SC. But anyway, I had one floppy disk with me, and that floppy disk had the iDisk utility for Windows. And so I would put that in the PCs at work. I'd be able to access my iDisk on my, iTools or .Mac account, whatever it was back then. And I felt like the hottest crap. I was like, yeah, this is great. I'm updating my website. I'm accessing my files and backing stuff up. And it saved me a lot of times, because sometimes I would work on schoolwork or projects or whatever, and I'd save it to there while I was in a class, because of all these machines at school, they had, I think it was deep freeze and Windows. And so as soon as the machine restarted, it was like it would erase any documents you saved or anything. It would just revert it back to the previous session. So I couldn't fit anything on a disk that I needed, but I could put everything on an iDisk. And so with that utility, you were able to use the add network drive or whatever. It would be compatible with an iDisk. I think it was Windows 98. I don't think they had XP on all their systems, but yeah, that's what I was doing. That's why I added that little piece in the game there.
All right, next one. Have you ever completely filled a SCSI chain?
Quack,
I
Quack.
think I might have to quack that. Yeah.
I
What
have.
about a firewire chain?
Wait,
No.
Steve hasn't said anything yet.
Hold on, I'm trying to think.
I
I've
did.
come close to it, I think.
Yeah,
I did.
Wait, let me count. 0, 1.
I had.
How many can you put in a
workstation
chain? Because I have no clue about
Six.
six.
Oh, either.
Well,
You can actually put 8,
Yeah.
but the computer is 1, so it's 7.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, so when in the chain, yeah, as I say, it does allow 8 devices, but the actual computer itself is a device.
Wait,
And then generally, it was usually accepted that 0 was your internal hard drive,
Yeah.
3 was going to be a CD-ROM drive, you know, and then so yeah, you had the rest.
Now I'm just counting out loud. I've had an internal drive, a scanner attached, a jazz disc, a zip. I think that's only 4. Yeah, I don't think I've.
I had an external drive, a zip, a jazz, a scanner, and what was the last thing? SideQuest drive.
Oh, there you go.
So
I was
never used SCSI in my life.
I was always so cautious about adding more than one SCSI device because you breathe and your computer just freezes.
I mean, it's when you think about it, depending on what you're doing, it really wouldn't be that hard to do. I mean, if you think about, maybe a couple of hard drives, a CD-ROM drive, maybe a burner, a scanner, it would, you could definitely feel. And I don't actually have any specific recollection of doing it, but I figure I must have. But I can't think of anything worse. I mean, can you imagine trying to juggle so many devices on a SCSI chain and getting them to all work at once? I mean,
oh yeah, and one driver's not conflicting the other. I've had instances where the jazz drive will work, but the zip drive wouldn't, and it's the same stupid set of drivers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was, and even though we knew how it was meant to be, the first and last devices are meant to be terminated. That's how it was always meant to be. Sometimes, when you followed all the rules, it just didn't work, and you might have to have one terminated that you wouldn't expect to be terminated, or you might have to take the termination off something that was meant to be terminated. So,
aren't you glad USB came out?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Firewire. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Took all the goodness of SCSI and got rid of it.
SCSI was still faster at transferring files, but USB gave you a lot more flexibility with stuff like, peripherals and.
Well, I don't know. I think
even scanners and things
USB
like that.
is
USB 1
faster.
was not.
Yeah, I was gonna say
SCSI,
but USB 3 now is probably way faster.
Well, sure, yeah.
Oh yeah,
and
I remember.
Another thing you have to remember is that people in the PC world, when SCSI was around, they were just using IDE or whatever, and they had a master and a slave. That was it. They had you had 2 drives. You could have
and that
up, or you'd have something
sucked.
like parallel port. Yeah, I mean, when SCSI was around in the early days, if we think about Mac Plus or those really early days of the Mac 2s. As painful as SCSI was, it was way better than anything else.
I don't know if you remember, but back in the day, MFM hard drives had you could only put 2 on there too, but they didn't have master or slave. But it was a cable. There was a twist in the cable, that would be in there, and so that's what determined. The first one was your second drive. The closest one was your first drive, and it's the same with the floppy drive for a PC. Is you had that twist to do A or B, drive A or B. So yeah, that's what sucked about those, because IDE was good, but it's not as good as.
And that's why even some of the later G4 Macs came with a SCSI card, or they gave you an option for it. Because I remember when my dad got his Mac, when he got a CD burner, he had to get a SCSI one because either the USB one wasn't compatible or it was significantly slower than what you could get on the SCSI bus.
Yeah. All right, last one for the Eat or Quack game. Have you ever carried around a recovery drive/disk just in case?
Yeah, I think we just kind of answered that one.
Well, it's kind of a little different because the recovery drive is a little different than.
Well, yeah, but like
utilities.
Bruce was talking about carrying that big drive around.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got a 512 gig on my keychain. Has everything.
Mine's, I think, a 64 gig, and it has multiple installers and a whole lot of.
Yeah, because all you need is like 8 gigabytes on each to you just basically partition it.
Well, I have installers, bootable systems with utilities on it, and the whole 9 yards. Disk images from certain operating systems that I can restore. Yeah, it comes in handy once in a while. I mean, I haven't really left the house the last 6 months, so I haven't used it. But when the world goes back to semi-normal, maybe I'll have use for it again.
All right. Okay, so that does it for the Eat game time. So, like I said, guys, if you're new here, check us out every week, and you'll be able to play because we have fun doing that. I think I see a lot of people in there eeping and quacking. So.
And we're always open to suggestions.
Exactly. We
Yes.
actually have a suggestion box on Discord, so go over there and.
Well, let me check Discord, see if we have any that we skipped. We got one from Sean
Go for it.
that we could toss in there.
Go for it then.
Have you ever broken a key off of your keyboard and just kept using it like that?
Yep.
Eep.
Eep.
Kinda have to.
Well, yeah, you have to sometimes.
Especially
Another
on the
keyboard.
older keyboards, if that rubber dome is still intact, I'll just
Yeah.
Yep.
whack it
I have
in.
an old pro keyboard like that.
Yeah, I mean, it still works. Or you get a key,
you got that right.
or you get a key that doesn't work at all, and then you're like, hopefully it's not a very important key, you know.
Yeah.
Like I have a MacBook Pro. The X key does not work on it. The whole keyboard works fine. The X key is the only one.
Not a particularly important letter.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just can't
Except
spell
for
like,
cut.
you know, I can't spell
Command X.
execute or, you know, exit.
Yes, you can. You ECS. You just replace X with CS. It'll work.
CSX. All right, so next up on the list here, Steve's Archive Adventure. Do you have something for us tonight?
Yeah, it's not what I was planning because that's not there. But I'll just talk briefly.
Planning. You don't plan.
Exactly.
We didn't. Yeah, we don't plan
The
anymore.
jig is up.
It is.
So I was browsing social media. Sometimes I do, and I came across a listing for something, and I messaged the seller. I got it. This was a PowerBook Duo power adapter.
Mm.
It's
Ooh.
not the. It's an aftermarket one by BTI, but it's sealed in the box. So it's very odd that somebody would be selling this without maybe having more Mac stuff. So I did message them, and came back with a heap load of stuff, an iMac, a bunch of software and things. And so I'm actually most excited about the software. A lot of the stuff they sold the boxes for. So here's Retrospect Backup. We have a copy of Virtual PC 2.0. And what's nice about that is inside there's a fax form, and that's to get the upgrade, Virtual PC 4.
Yeah, like you can
So they
get that.
faxed in their detail to get that, which is pretty neat.
Is that is that number 4 that you have?
Yep, this is upgrade to version 4. So it's a 4.0 upgrade.
So are
It's
you
Windows ME on the back.
are you going to archive all that stuff and?
Well, a lot of it already is. So, but no scans or anything are usually of the boxes. I mean, we have Norton Utilities.
Oh
Year
yes.
That's
2000
dude.
version.
That's
I have that.
I've seen. I think I've seen that cover.
I haven't seen the antivirus as much.
I've
but,
seen
yeah,
that
there's-
too. Yeah, it's the same.
There's
I
that.
have to.
Never used
We
that.
got Tech Tool Pro version.
Yes.
That's good.
Absolutely.
And this was a nice gem because I had one of these ages ago. I got it for a steal, and the box got crushed.
Ooh.
So I'm happy to have another one.
Yep.
Nice.
And
Nice.
Action Retro in the chat says Windows ME is the best Windows. Okay, are we gonna have to ban Action Retro now?
I think the curse is
Jay,
that-
you're muted, Jay.
But
I think Jay's
last
cursing
thing I
over
wanna
there.
show
That's why he's muted.
Jay's muted.
Is this?
Oh yeah, I said we're not inviting that dude back on anytime soon.
I have a ton of these, and it's usually like, oh, it's just a little pamphlet.
Oh yeah.
But I just looked in the back of this literally as I was getting this stuff ready, and we have, just technical information for your 8100. That's cool. But look what else we got in there.
Ooh,
Got some stickers.
oh, dude.
Nice.
Yeah.
And an
Those
Apple
are always a
credit
nice
card
find.
Look at that.
Hey.
Very cool.
Cool.
I remember
So-
those.
Yeah,
they have
Pretty
their
sure
own
that
card.
one was more easily obtainable than the current Apple.
But yeah, so I'm still sorting through the stuff. There is they kept a lot of boxes for their software, but it's just timing. They said the week or two before they threw out a garbage bag full of discs and cables, and I'm like, So I did get a Jazz drive, which is neat, and I got one of these things.
Don't you hate when people throw out perfectly good stuff?
Exactly. I got one of these and it has some zip discs in there, and then I got another one that was empty. They're gonna keep looking through stuff because they're moving, so maybe I might get something else. But
Yeah.
that was my archive haul. It was nice to actually go out and get something.
Yeah. What's the old saying? You know, what one man's garbage is another man's treasure.
And
Yeah.
that is the basis of which I've based my life.
That's the reason why I'm surprised the wife has not actually said anything to you yet. Said nope, enough.
There are some dresses I need to purchase.
Ah, yeah. He said it live on here, guys. So,
How local was that?
This was like 20 minutes away. So
oh, that's very
Okay.
local. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
that's why when I saw it, I'm like,
9 or
I'm
10
there.
miles away. Yeah.
Those,
But that was
those
the
are the
thing.
good
Like
ones.
I messaged them about the adapter. They didn't tell me anything that they have. They just said, "Oh, we have stuff you'd like," and they did all graphic design stuff. They had a G5 dual 8 gigahertz tower there, 500 megahertz IMAX Snow there. I got some weird Toshiba laptop thing. I got a Thai book that they had there. I got a PowerBook adapter thing. So I'm going to go through this stuff on a future stream. But excited.
Speaking
After
of
the show,
future
Steve?
stream, there's a
Sure.
question if you will be wearing the dresses. On your-
Oh.
No, I don't want to break them because then I had to buy new ones. I know my limits.
Yeah.
I'm not a slim fellow.
All right, so the next thing we got up, and the last thing actually tonight, and I think we could talk about this for a while, is the Outback Wayback Machine. So take it away, Bruce.
That's me, isn't it?
That is
let's,
you.
Let's hope if I did some preparation. So, one of the things that I've sort of said about this Outback Wayback Machine is I don't really design these to be like a hugely informative, segment on these particular computers, and I don't necessarily focus on a specific computer release. I like to focus on, like a group of computers or something like that. And the whole thing is to try. I also like to look at it from the personal side of things, so how these computers sort of affected me. And then obviously invite everyone else as well. And tonight, what we're going to be talking about is the G3 iMac. And I would argue that apart from maybe the original Macintosh and maybe the iPhone, probably the most iconic Apple product that they've ever released. And of course, it was also ushering in a whole new era of Apple, in that this was kind of the Steve Jobs thing. And with him returning to the sort of to the idea of a visually pleasing sort of compact Mac. And I think 1998 was when the first ones came out, I think, from memory. And of course they look like nothing else out there. I mean, in a world of Apple had been just peddling beige stuff for years, and in the PC world they were just grey boxes. Out comes this brightly coloured Bondi blue, Mac with that, of course, then it also then ushered in the era of no more floppy, and no more SCSI, and of course that was again something that impacted me in what I was doing, because we were still using a lot of SCSI devices, and we were still using ADB sort of devices, because again that they went with USB and abandoned ADB. And abandon the floppy drive, which is a huge step. And of course, they copped a lot of strife about that. And if you want to know more about that, I would recommend Steve's video, because Steve has done a video where he covers essentially all of these products that were made to help people transition to this new world, this world with no floppies, with no ADB, and with no SCSI. And Steve's got a video where he goes over all of these amazing devices and stuff like that were made, whether it be like a Griffin iMate so that you could actually connect an ADB device to USB, or whether it be, sort of a USB floppy drive or whatever the case may be, because there were still a lot of people using floppy disks at the time. But it was a bold move by Apple to do this, and at the end of the day, they were right. They might have come out with this a little bit early, but some people may not have been ready for it. But it was the way things went.
May I add one thing before you move on from Steve's video? Steve has a lot of horrible videos, especially his live streams. Good luck sitting through those. But this iMac video that was just mentioned is one of his masterpieces. It really takes you back. It's fun to watch. I think I watched it 5 times over. It's worth checking out. So definitely do that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. Now, obviously, the I in iMac stood for internet, because this was a time when the internet was growing. It was becoming it was becoming a much bigger thing, very different to obviously what it is today. But the idea with an iMac was that you would be able to buy one, you would be able to plug it into the wall and into the phone socket, and you'd be able to get onto the internet as quickly and easily as possible. Whereas for a lot of people, that whole process was fairly daunting, and they weren't sure how to get onto the internet. So that was something they made easier.
The Windows way of getting on the internet, especially 3.1, was a pain. I mean, you had to sit there and know what you had to put in, especially dial-up. Dial-up was even worse. You're like, ugh. It was such a pain.
I have nothing but fond memories of the iMac G3. I mean, it was the blue and white was the first computer at home, but at school, and my dad had one in his office for at his company, and my first paying customer to do support for was an iMac tray load. So nothing but good memories.
Yeah, I mean the tray load was the first one that came out, and I'm sure people will correct me if this is wrong, but I think one of the main issues with the tray loaders, I think first of all, I don't think Steve liked them from a design perspective, the way they sort of poked out from the front of the computer. But the other thing is that iMacs were being used in schools a lot, and those trays just didn't last long. I mean, they just get snapped and busted and things pulled off them and all that. Now, admittedly, you can still try and shove a sandwich into a tray loading one, if you're a particularly destructive child, but into a socket loading one. But the socket loading ones were a lot nicer.
So the question I got for you, because they went from tray load to slot load, and then they came out with the iMac G4, which had tray load again.
Tray load again.
Yeah.
I think the problem with that was they couldn't achieve the write speeds that they wanted at a price that they wanted for the iMac. So I think that was some of the I believe reading in a magazine way back when, can't remember which, I think they cited that as one of the potential reasons why. Plus, I think it just looks cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys I'm sure you will remember these. Do you remember back in the days when people used to do promotional CDs, and they would sometimes bring them out in weird shapes? They would have a CD in the shape of a business card or one of those little tiny ones.
I've actually got a couple baseball cards.
Yeah, I love the idea of people feeding those into a slot loading machine and trying to get them to work.
I just told you my first paying customer was one with a slot load. That same dude 2 or 3 years later tried to put one of those mini CDs in his slot load, and I got a call pretty quickly.
Now, interestingly enough, where I used to work at the time, that we didn't really use many of these in production because we were using bigger screens and we wanted faster computers and all that. We would mainly have the towers, but the iMacs we did use sort of like the accountant and the receptionist, and they would use them. And what I loved about the iMacs, and I don't know if you guys had this, but maybe because they were cheap or something like that, but once they had fulfilled their usefulness and people were upgrading, people just seemed keen to give them away. And I ended up at one stage just just grabbing every iMac that someone would hand out, and I ended up with stacks of them. I ended up actually giving. I had nowhere else to store them, so it's like, I don't need any more, thank you. And that was a wonderful thing. I just ended up with so many free iMacs. Now I don't have them anymore, but I couldn't store them. But I don't know if you
I'll
guys
live on
found
your
that
legacy
as well.
for you.
Yeah, that's right.
By the way, all the pictures we're looking at, I believe, are from Steve.
Yes,
yeah,
and
I think
that
the
purple
majority
one
are,
you're looking at right now is practically flawless. That's the one I picked up when I went to get this adapter just a few days
It
ago.
does look brand new.
Oh, I thought you did some
Yeah.
HDR finagling to get this photo because it looks perfect.
Hey, that's
Yeah,
not
why
an
is that
iMac.
one in here?
There's two photos of that. One is the photo of the door on the beige G3 on the left, which has a
I
little
think it's the next one.
Bondi
Bondi.
button. I'm looking at Jay. I had to appease him. And then looking at the blueberry colored blue and white G3 that came out after the iMac, just to show you the influence of the design. But go on, Bruce.
Yep. No, look, I'm getting to the end of my spiel here, and then I'll just invite everyone to sort of talk about their ones. I do remember once, just to give you an idea of the sort of the impact it had. I remember walking into a newsagent once just to buy a magazine, and the guy working behind the magazine was, I think, a Macworld magazine, and it had a picture of a G3 iMac on the front. I remember just walking up to buy it, and he sort of said, "Are they any good?" And this was clearly someone that was not a Mac person, but obviously there was such a thing going on. There was so much reaction to it, and it was in the media and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That this was someone just asking me out of the blue whether this colourful computer was any good, or was it just a toy, that sort of thing.
Rarely have I ever seen another Mac product, well, an Apple product apart from the iPhone and iPods, marketed as well as the iMac G3.
Mm-hmm.
I got calls from people buying it, says, my software doesn't work. What do you mean? I'm trying to install Windows. You bought a Mac. Oh, they didn't even know what it was. They just wanted it because the whole planet was running out to buy one. It was beautiful.
Yeah, and of course then they took the ball and ran with it and produced these ones. That we went from just the plain blue one to having all of these different colors, and then ones with patterns on them, which of course again were very successful. And now for collectors, people wanting to get ones with all the different colors. Now, of course, I have been putting this off, but another really important thing with these iMacs were obviously the introduction of the colorful keyboards as well, which to this day I still think are lovely keyboards. And I've got a few of them tucked away, and I think they're nice keyboards to use, and I like the look of them. But of course, the most important one is the introduction of the puck mouse. There are definitely conflicting feelings about the puck mouse, and one of the things that I can tell you
That's just right people and wrong people.
from working with a puck mouse.
Jay, you're wrong, but we won't go into that.
So there is absolutely no doubt about the fact that in terms of the way a puck mouse translates motion on the desk onto the cursor moving on the screen, they do that incredibly well. They're very fine resolution. There's no doubt about that. But that wasn't what people were complaining about. People were complaining about the shape of them. They were saying that they were too small for big hands or something like that, which I think is nonsense anyway. I mean, I've got hands like boxing gloves, and they were fine. But the biggest complaint I had with them from working in a production environment was the fact that a group of us would all share the same computer. So you would hop up from one computer, you go work on another, and someone else might be working at that computer. So we didn't have a computer that was specifically ours. And if the person who was using the computer before you got up and left the mouse at a slight angle or something like that, you go to sit down, you'd put your hand on there without looking, and you wouldn't necessarily have it on straight. The mouse might be slightly crooked, but you had no tactile way of knowing which way up the mouse was, whereas other mouses were, mice were shaped as an oval or something like that. You could put your hand on and instantly feel the top and the bottom of it, whereas with these ones they did, of course, eventually put a little indentation on the button so you could feel that was the button on the top. What I used to do, and I've mentioned this before, and I used to take the little coloured panels off the side, and that gave me a way of just when I put my hand on them, I would just instantly be able to feel that these were the sides and that was the front. So that was what I used to do with that. But in terms of their functionality as a mouse, I mean, they worked quite well, but it was mainly the shape that people complained about. And they hung on to them. And obviously, there were then, as you'll see in Steve's video, there were people started making little things that clipped onto them to change the shape of the mouse. So to some extent, they created an extra market there, which was nice of Apple.
Yeah.
So that's probably it from my spiel. I'm sure other people will have things to add about it.
I have a question. First a statement, then a question. Not everybody is smart enough to use a puck mouse. Just want to get that out the way. Question. And this is an Eper Quack. Did you know that the original iMac had a fan in it? Quack. I did not know this until I read this video.
I actually got a comment in that video about, you're wrong, there's no fan in it. I'm like, what video are you watching, dude?
I have no idea.
Well,
the original one had that mezzanine expansion as well, didn't it? So
yeah, so the tray loaders did have a fan.
There was a lot of reasons why Steve Jobs didn't want to release it, because it wasn't until like a week or something before the announcement that he found out that it actually had a tray load. He wanted a slot load from day one. And he said, no, we're going to cancel it until you put a slot load in it. And they talked him into it. Well, the other thing he hated was the fan. So he made sure the next one had no fan.
I mean, but it's simply a boasting thing, because that fan spins right over or right near the CRT, and it helps get some of the air out of there. And most of the machines I have, the iMac tray loads, you don't really hear the fan unless it's really dusty. So, I mean, that's just something I've noticed. But I also wanted to mention, Jay, I don't know if you have any expertise on this, but this puck mouse I got with that iMac, it's in beautiful condition. There's no sticky residue on it. So
sticky is the worst thing.
Is
it still matte?
It's in beautiful shape. I actually had to talk to him to get it.
Jay's like, I want that,
because the whole reason that matte coating becomes sticky is because it interacts with the oils and the sweat from your skin over time. Because who finishes using their computer and says, I better wipe my mouse down? You know,
so I'll put gloves on when I use it now.
White gloves.
I'll give you $2 for it.
Yeah, but I think also one thing that a lot of people forget is why people were buying the iMac is you could get an iMac G3 for a lot less than you could get a G3 desktop with a monitor, with a keyboard, and all that stuff. I mean, if you look at some of the old ads in the back of the old Mac magazines, you see just the tower is like $1,400. Now, yes, the tower is more expandable. It has these features that the iMac doesn't, but for the majority of people who just wanted to get online, the iMac was perfect for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't know about you all, but I didn't know a lot of people, myself included, that wanted to drag their tower and display to a LAN party.
Yep.
Yeah.
Nope. I had rooms full of iMacs at my house in the weekends, and
it's got a handle.
Tower.
I was gonna say.
Carry it with one hand. Yeah.
Be careful of doing that these days with those brittle plastic. Always support the
I do the same thing. I actually lift it from the bottom more than the handle at all. In fact, I don't even think I use the handle. I have it on my top shelf up here, and I put it up very carefully.
You look a bit.
No. I have the shelf is actually screwed to the wall, so it's not going to fall down. But
unfortunately, sort of a lot of the G3 iMacs these days are having technical problems, whether it be flyback transformers going on them or capacitor failure, because they were being made during the time of dodgy capacitors around the world. So you do see a lot of them being sold these days as not working or having all sorts of problems, and then they're not necessarily the easiest thing to fix either. I don't touch them. Not necessarily because they're unrepairable, but you have to pull them apart into 80,000 pieces to get to them.
Yeah.
And all those pieces have to go somewhere while you're working on them.
Yeah.
And if for some reason there's a delay while you're working on it, you've then got this, huge bag of bits of plastic that's brittle. And so, yeah, I don't work on them, and I might work on my own as a labour of love, but I don't repair them for other people.
Yeah, just getting to the CRT on one of the iMacs I took apart, a DV iMac, I cracked so much plastic, and I was being so gentle, and I'd left it apart because I thought by the time I get to this, I'm gonna have to clean it again, so why put it back together?
I've never had issues with the outer plastic though. It's always the bezels that are underneath the whatever you call those things. Yeah.
So
Probably where the most of the heat was and stuff. That's probably why, because I mean the outside of it's not heated up that much, but you got more heat on the inside of the plastic. So I mean that's my theory on it, but
yeah, thankfully somebody was even talking about maybe making molds or 3D printing something in that shape, because the plastic is there's the translucent plastic with the pinstripes you see on the front bezel of the iMac. Then there's this gray, smoky, beige plastic behind it. Who cares what that looks like? It's going to be masked by the opaqueness of the grill, but it's structurally there to keep things in place.
Right. I think
too many.
I was going to say, Crazy Tech Reviews asks, how many iMacs do you need?
I have all the colors except the Dalmatian one, the Flower Power one, Sage, and a tray load
still
blueberry.
Looking.
Okay, so that you still need 4 more, and then you'll be satisfied. Yeah.
I know where I'm going to put them at this point.
Dude.
There's no room.
I think one of the coolest thing about the iMac G3s is that, when the original 128 came out, it became iconic. Anybody who saw it knew what it was. And so they didn't necessarily get it because they were pretty expensive, but they knew what it was. And it kind of changed the way computers that went from, these big, huge gray boxes or something the size of a room was suddenly something you can put on your desk with a keyboard and mouse and have room for, whatever else. But the iMac G3 was the next Mac to become that kind of a popular culture symbol, because you had a lot of really cool looking Macs and some that weren't so cool looking in the time in between. Because I mean, we can talk all day about the design between one of the 8600 mini towers or a Mac 2FX. The 2FX is basically a box. But when the iMac G3 came out, it was another one of those where people looked and went, I know what that is. And the coolest thing about them was that they caused the rest of the industry to change.
Yeah.
So whereas the original iMac did the same thing, people started making computers smaller, the iMac G3 started making computers cool again. It was kind of a status symbol type thing. It sounds a little bit, douchey, but that's kind of what they became. And that's why you've got people buying these $1,200 iPhones because it's a status symbol, not because it's, necessarily a great phone, even though I'm sure they're fine. But
it suddenly made me think of the E-Machine Z1.
Oh, yeah.
I E-Machines, they got sued, didn't they? Because it looked so much like the iMac. Yeah.
But I mean, another
thing
example
that
of
Steve's video touches on, that everything from printers to floppy drives to everything you could possibly want or need for a computer had collars now.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
they were USB also. So you didn't, I think that was a huge push. If there wasn't the reaction to USB that we got from the iMac, Apple probably would have had more legacy ports on their towers and stuff going forward. And a lot of stuff became Mac compatible just because, it's the same physical port. You just got to write the software for it.
Yeah.
Steve, I think you should do, I don't know if this is possible on YouTube, you should do a rerun Premiere. Can you do that?
I could add some more information to a video and replay it, sure.
No, rerun the episode while people are chatting. I think it would be
I guess I could do that. You guys let me know in the chat if that's something you're interested in.
Yeah.
I could add a commentary track or a pop-up video TRL thing or whatever.
I should also mention Steve's, sort of response video that he did about that G3 that got pushed off the desk. that was a really important one because there's a lot of factual stuff in that. So if if you're wanting to find out more about the iMac, that one just has so much good information.
Well, the good thing about that,
Because of all of you.
well, the good thing
helping
about that response one is that the guy that made the original video has way more viewers than all of us put together, and I think Steve made a very good point there doing that because he was giving out a lot of wrong information to a lot of people. So
yeah.
I liked how he was so angry that he was foaming at the mouth. That was my favorite part.
I like the fact that he didn't sleep the entire night to finish it.
That was that flashbacks.
I woke up in the morning and I had like 75 updates from Steve throughout the night as to where he was at with this video.
I think the problem is when one of us doesn't sleep, usually none of us get any sleep. We were busy that night.
Messages bouncing backwards and forwards.
And Bruce is like, "Oh, this is my time zone. I'm good."
Yeah. I've got no problem. Yeah.
Bruce had a comment, and I'm like, "I gotta go down and talk about that."
Yeah. I'll be there working on a Mac.
One other thing that I was going to mention based on those photos that Steve took was that the iMac came out in May of '98, I think, but the G3 towers and even the all-in-one came out before that. So, and it was kind of interesting how Apple gave us this little tiny preview of what was to come, where the G3 tower was a big beige tower, but it had these translucent blue buttons and handles on the outside and the inside of it. And then the all-in-one G3 had these clear translucent parts, like especially on the top, which if you look in the marketing at the time, you couldn't see it. But if you look at one from the top down, that whole top plastic piece is like this translucent clear plastic. So it was kind of interesting. Yeah,
the Molar Mac.
So it was kind of interesting how they gave us that little sneak. Yeah.
And of course, the other thing I didn't mention about the iMac was, of course, the two little stereo speakers at the front.
Oh, they're fantastic.
Which, despite the size, actually sounded wonderful. I mean, if you're playing music or playing a game or something like that, they were absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, you just reminded me of that in that video. That guy's like, "Oh, my MacBook Air sounds better." I'm like, "What ears do you have?"
Yeah.
And those were Harman Kardon speakers. They were very similar to the ones that came out in the sound sticks. So they were good speakers. Still to this day, if you got one that's in good shape, they still sound great.
My G3 sounds really awesome when I power it on. I mean, the bong it makes is just like really deep bass,
There's way more bass than you would expect from some speakers that are so small. It's
maybe
really cool.
kicking them off a desk, Max.
Maybe I'll do a follow-up video with my brand new pristine grape iMac and just like, it's okay, you're here now. Nobody can hurt you.
You can do as many G3 iMac videos as you like, as far as I'm concerned.
All right, guys. So we're almost done for the evening here. In fact, we made it an hour and a half, guys. So hey, congrats on that. All right. Oops.
Yay.
Wrong button. Yeah. So we got some shameless promotion. Anybody got anything they want to talk about?
I'll be recapping this weekend. See you there.
Did we talk about my little trip to Chicago last week?
No.
Yeah.
No? Okay.
Tell us more.
So I drove to Chicago last Friday.
Wait, you were doing stuff?
To meet a guy. To meet a guy who had for sale on eBay another Apple Network server. And this is a Model 500. I already had the Model 700. However, mine had just the basic hard drive, CD floppy, and that was it. Which I was tickled pink just to have that.
You're heavy.
But this one has it's completely full of hard drives. So it has all 9 gig SCSI drives, which has like 36 gigs of storage in it. It has the Apple RAID card, and it has 2 Ethernet cards. And those accessories, those add-ons, let alone the mounting trays for the drives inside, you can't find them anywhere. I've never seen one for sale that didn't have just the one drive with, no networking or anything, just basically bare bones models. And this guy not only had all those drives inside, but he gave me 10 more brand new IBM SCSI 9 gig drives. And they're still sealed in the box. I think there's maybe 2 that were open, so I don't know if they're used or not. But it was just, and it was a trade deal, so it didn't cost me much other than the gas to go out there. So yeah,
Yeah,
it was
for $9,000, that's a steal.
Yeah, you know, it only cost you your 2 legs. So what do you need those for?
yeah.
So
And will
it
you
was
be
actually a comfortable
translating
drive.
this to a video maybe at some
Yeah,
point
and
in
when you
time?
do stuff,
It adds a lot more to the video because now I've got, other components to show off. Instead, I was just going to be talking about what things you could add to it. Now I can show you what was added to it. So it's going to be really cool.
Sweet.
all right, anybody got anything else?
I'm just wondering what time Steve is recapping tonight.
No. I am doing other things tonight other than straining my neck and back looking down in the
I
microscope.
think Steve sees Caps jumping over a
Grudy, you're
fence when he
muted.
goes to bed now.
I guess
leaking
that
electric
means
fence.
Bruce is
35
live streaming
microfarads.
tonight.
Oh, it must be. It must be my turn tonight.
Come on,
Why
Jay.
the hell am
Because
I
you were making
muted?
so much noise when
I don't
Dana
know.
was talking.
Picked up your dog. You're making old man noises
Yeah.
and you picked up your dog.
You're like, oh,
That dog looked really comfortable, by the way.
look it up at look it up
Look
at
how
Grudy.
the dog's
All right,
looking
that's
at
a
him. Look at
meme.
that.
That's a meme.
Please help. Don't upgrade me. That's what he's saying. Don't upgrade me, please. Don't
The
upgrade
dog
me.
is looking at you like, what are you doing?
I don't trust you, dude.
Yeah, there better be a payoff for this.
Am I gonna get smacked again?
Uh,
Are you gonna scream at me just for being a dog?
all right, so last thing before we get off tonight is make sure you join our Discord. We do have a Discord channel. Lots of good information flowing around on there. Just be advised when you first join, you're going to see only one channel. You have to do something specific there, and that specific thing is read the rules. Okay? It's all we ask you to do. Read the rules and follow the rules and obey the rules. And we won't have any problems with you. Other than that, enjoy the Discord server.
Yep. One more thing I wanna, for people that don't watch Steve's stream, Steve, can you roll your chair to the side so we can see that beautiful, organized, and clean desk
You
space?
can't roll the chair.
There were multiple Macintosh compact machines there. I will do myself a favor and lift the chair up and out of the way.
Oh God!
Oh wait, there's cords all over.
Cable.
As we lose
cable on it.
Steve because he just disconnected his internet.
Is that your
This
soldering
could have
iron?
gone very bad. Look at
I'll
that.
post.
Yeah.
Sit down in my whole desk.
All right, guys.
Yeah,
Like I said before at the beginning of the video, we are doing a giveaway. Make sure that you like and subscribe to this channel. Also, go look at episode number 69, and that will show you how to actually get into the giveaway. I don't think we've had a lot of people doing that lately because I know I get the emails when somebody goes in there and posts, but I haven't gotten any in a while. So make sure you tell your friends, hey, we're giving some free stuff away. It might be older Macs, but they still work and they're still fun to play with,
Yes, they are.
All right, so with that, I have nothing else unless anybody else got anything.
Me neither.
We're going to go ahead and call it a night. So we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.
Next week.
See you next.